So hi, I'm Monty Mythen, Editor-in-Chief of Top Med Talk, and I'm delighted to be introducing a mini-series entitled Fluid Matters. Recorded early in the year, we're running all 6 episodes to coincide with the 7th International Fluid Academy Day, IFAD, the International Fluid Academy Day. That was on November the 23rd in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Top Med Talk was there. We did interviews, live streaming, roundtables, all that stuff we usually do, and generated more great content to add to our extensive back catalogue, which is now up to over 300 podcasts. More on that at the end of this from our creative director, Nick Majerison. Basically, if you want to get the 300 podcasts for free, completely free, you better act soon. This is part 5 of our 6-part mini-series entitled Fluid Matters. And in this one, we're dealing with nil by mouth, or the great NPO debate, this strange practice where for very many years we kept patients starved of food and water for far too long before elective major surgery. Well, this is challenged as part of the Great American Fluid Debate, which was hosted at Duke University Medical Center's meeting entitled Controversies in Perioperative Medicine, hosted earlier this year in the south of America. It's chaired by me and features a familiar voice, Dr. Tim Miller, who's an anesthesiologist from Duke University Medical Center, Professor Mike Grocott, who's a professor of Anaesthesia and Critical Care at the University of Southampton, and Professors Paul Wischmeyer and Stuart Grant, also from the Department of Anesthesiology at Duke University Medical Center, who are hosting the meeting. And there's some great questions from the audience. Please enjoy Top Med Talk.
I'd love to debate NPO status a bit more, and we've perhaps come on to this, but we've changed it at Duke, and several hospitals in the UK now have completely removed any restriction to preoperative water.
Yeah,
i.e. you have this by your bedside in the pre-op area and you are encouraged to drink.
So Great Ormond Street Hospital, National Paediatric Leading Hospital, has published recently they've gone to 0 NPO for clears.
And there's some physiologic basis for that, right? If you don't increase the volume of the stomach at any point over the night they're NPO, the stomach won't empty. And they're finding with pre-op carb load to actually get the stomach to empty, you have to distend it a little bit. That distension actually causes better emptying, so pre-op carb loads lead to lower gastric volumes than people who are left NPO more than 12 hours.
Okay, I think we've got our first question from the floor. I think it's Eleanor. If you could tell us your full name, Eleanor, where you come from, that would be great.
Elena Patterson from Asheboro, North Carolina. And I just had a question from your talk about the carbohydrate load before surgery. 2 hours before?
Correct.
Where does the protein come in?
So the carbohydrate load piece is just that. It's a carbohydrate load.
And what is it?
So it's 50 grams of maltodextrin, 45 to 50 grams. There are commercially available products in the U.S. that you can get for a few dollars that patients can drink that actually have exactly what was studied in mostly European studies that have been done. And it's literally it's 50 grams of maltodextrin. And it doesn't have protein or other amino acids in it. We've dreamed that would be such a great thing if we could add a bunch of amino acids to it, and maybe someday that'll become reality. But right now we have great fears that addition of amino acids, especially arginine or citrulline, potentially could cause delayed gastric emptying because they generate nitric oxide, which can slow the emptying of the stomach. And so we need a little more data before we can say, boy, let's start throwing protein in. The protein piece happens in the weeks before surgery, where we're delivering a high-protein oral nutrition supplement daily for 10, 20, 30 days in that lead up to surgery. But the morning of, and I know Monty and Mike, you guys do it the night before, the 100 grams, which is much more marathon runner-ish, like all of us that have run marathons or run races would take in that kind of load the night before a big race. Surgery is not any different. That would improve your fluid balance in the morning of, too.
And to everyone who's going to comment on this, in making that journey, it seems to be the first barrier to break down is the NPO barrier. And some places start just by liberating the water drinking before they get into the carb drink to just build the confidence on the NPO thing. Tim, you've travelled this journey at Duke.
Yeah, we actually did it the other way around. We did the carb drink, and then once that was started going, then we were able to fully liberate. We just started in the ERAS patients initially, and the two were together. You could drink water 2 hours and you had your carb drink. And then when people were happy with that, then we opened it out to all patients. But it's one of the hardest things I had to change, because you've got to educate so many people to change your NPO status in your hospital, from every nurse that calls the patient, from the pre-op to PACU to the floor
people
nurses.
you meet in the street, to people in bars, to people at bus stops.
Everyone tells them,
everyone
and then their
knows.
relative says, "Oh no, you got that wrong. It's midnight. What are you doing? You're going to get cancelled." And then, even though 10 people have told them 2 hours, they still are conservative because they don't want to be cancelled.
Stuart?
And as hard as it is to deal with the patients that are coming in from home, even more difficult to break down the dogma in the institution itself. So I've looked at our patients arriving from the floor, and you've got an intern who's frightened of getting shouted at by the chief resident, who doesn't get shouted at by the attending surgeon because somebody's cancelled the case because the patient's not fasted. So when I actually look at the volume status of our patients that come down to the OR, the inpatient cases, we've got this controlled environment with a messaging about enhanced recovery. People are chugging back their carbohydrate drink in pre-op and taking clear fluids. The message is enforced by our nurses. And then inpatient, where we have control, we've got some of the worst fasting guidelines. So now we're trying to address that in the inpatient care. You look at the causes of death in the United States: cancer, heart disease 1, cancer 2, iatrogenic injury 3. And when you look at these California raisins that come down for emergent surgery, it's really tough to change that behaviour in patients.
So we're going to get another question, but just to be clear from everyone, the balance of evidence is if you keep somebody starved, the things you're trying to prevent, you're setting them up for a worse outcome from that perspective than a better outcome. So the volume of intragastric fluid and the pH of that fluid is worse in a fully starved patient than somebody who's been taking clears. So if you're worried about litigation in the future, I would worry about NPO after midnight now, because someone's going to get into that at some stage if things go badly wrong.
And it's a metabolic catastrophe because they're heading into a catabolic state before you even start.
So,
hi, my name is Tamana Sumra. I'm from New York. I have a question for clear fluids. Like you're saying, like you allow your patients to drink water. Do you guys go with the volume? Like, we know like for aspiration, the volume is like 25 cc's. And the pH should be less than 2.5. Those are the high risk for aspiration. So you guys are like allowing the liberal use of free volume, like free water, the clear water.
So our protocol is, yes, we allow liberal, unrestricted use of water until 2 hours before surgery, and that is the ASA guidelines. 90% of water clears from your stomach in 20 to 30 minutes. If you have got any residual fluid, which is unlikely, it's actually better if that small amount of fluid is diluted, so it's less acidotic. And the ASI guidelines are clear that you can have unrestricted use of water until 2 hours preoperatively.
Since the last century.
Since the last century.
We were residents.
And they allow it. The European and the Canadian guidelines have actually changed the word allow to encourage. It's a subtle change, but they actually encourage use of clear water until 2 hours preoperatively. That's as far as I've done, as we've gone at Duke. What I'm saying now is in the UK is that some groups are pushing that even further and being completely unrestricted. That is currently not within the guidelines, and I don't think guidelines are going to change, but it may be that practice change will drive guidelines. If enough people do that and it's found to be safe in hundreds of thousands of patients, maybe that will drive guidelines. But at the moment, 2 hours, completely safe for water. And we include black coffee in that as well at our institution, because my wife has surgery. The one thing she wants that morning is black coffee, and it's completely safe. And I said, yes, please drink black coffee. And I said, if I'm saying that to my wife, I really should say that to all patients.
Stuart, and then we'll get another question in here. We've got a couple backed up.
And if your patients are drinking in pre-op, think of your pre-op area, the amount of time it takes to get somebody in, get changed. You take a history and get them checked in with EPIC, do your universal timeout. I defy you to get the tube down them any less than 2 hours. It's almost impossible to bring an elective patient now who's been drinking clear fluids up to arrival and actually end up anaesthetising them within that 2 hours.
And it goes on that list of great myths we've perpetuated that are the evidence is flipped the other way round. In other words, we were just electively putting a lot of energy into doing the wrong thing that's a bad thing. It's very hard to unpick. Mike, and then we'll get our next question.
Well, I think, as with several things in anaesthesia, it's a very, very, very rare, but potentially catastrophic outcome. And therefore, we've been a safety-focused specialty. We've focused all our attention on that and missed that unintended consequence of starving and keeping dehydrated very large numbers of patients. And I think, it's almost part of this shift towards perioperative medicine and looking in a much broader context. I cannot remember the last time I saw a significant perioperative aspiration. I see an awful lot of patients. I'm an intensivist. We simply don't see them in our hospital. And I see an awful lot of patients who are dehydrated and have fluid-related problems because they've been under-resuscitated.
And if you're worried about gastric volume, point-of-care ultrasound now. We're going to do this later in the week. Learn how to scan the gastric volume. You can give yourself a real sort of sigh of relief and worry less by actually scanning through the patient's liver, looking at the gastric antrum and see if there's contents in there. Yeah. A lot of that's been used to develop these new guidelines, actually using it as a tool.
There was also an opportunity to see that it goes up if you starve someone protractedly, which is an interesting thing to watch as well. Top Med Talk.
Nick Majerison here. Thanks for listening to Top Med Talk Fluid Matters. Don't forget, if you get yourself onto the internet now, you can download our entire back catalogue absolutely free of charge. We're itemising it and categorising it at the moment. It may not always exist in that form. We highly recommend you get yourself to the internet now, either via the Top Med Talk website, topmedtalk.com, or you go via your podcatcher and you dig out our entire back catalogue, get it all on the hard drive, and then you own everything we've ever done. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Top Med Talk. That's vital. And whilst you're at it, have a little look on social media where you can find us on Twitter, LinkedIn. We've even got our own YouTube channel. Obviously, we're on Facebook. We're all over the internet. Find us, subscribe to us, and join us online. And whilst you're doing that, get to the website and get on that mailing list of ours. We have a brilliant email mailing list which keeps you up to date with how you can get more involved in Top Med Talk, including, of course, some of the meetings that we attend. And if you want to find out about those right now, go to ebpom.org/meetings. Then you can see all of the big events that Top Med Talk and the team are going to be at in the near future. That's ebpom.org/meetings.